Hey there, welcome back to Orange Track Outlaws. Today we're going to be restoring this Hot Wheels Redline Mercedes-Benz 280sl. It does look pretty rough, but let's get started. Here's our project now coming in on our custom hauler. Pretty good looking casting here actually. Does look a little beat up in the paint, but overall it's actually not too awful bad. The wheels are no good, obviously. We'll get rid of those, replace those. It's got a little bit of tarnish on it. Everything ought to clean up nicely actually in the sandblaster. This one does have the working hood. Let's get started here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to center punch these posts so we can get to drilling them out. Reason we center punch these because the post is so small on these older Redlines. You got to drill them out with a small drill bit. So center punch helps keep the guide. Helps keep the drill bit guided so it doesn't go off track. You don't want to drill down too deep on these. Like I said, there's not a lot of post underneath there. They're real skinny. You want to keep as much as you can. So we're going to hit it with our drill here. We're going to just try to drill them out as easily as we can. These are some small rivets, so it ought to just take a medium-sized drill bit here, and we'll just drill the heads off, and it'll be pretty easy. Next thing we'll do is get a little bit bigger bit on here just to kind of round the heads off a little bit. Get our screwdriver in here and gently trying to pry it apart so we can get a good look at all the rest of the pieces. So we get our part here, get the interior out, take a look at the body. It's really not too bad. Windshield's pretty dirty. That's going to need a little bit of sanding and polishing, but should turn out nicely. There's our chassis there. Obviously it's missing a wheel, but we're going to go ahead and clip them wheels off and replace them with some fresh Redline wheels. So instead of pulling the wheels off, we're going to go ahead and take our side cutters here and snip them off so we don't risk ruining any of the axles there and the hubs. If for some reason something happens to those, they're pretty hard to fix and pretty hard to replace. So we're going to cut these old ugly ones off. Pretty easy here. And then we're actually gonna pop our axles out here because, like I said, we're gonna run this thing through the sandblaster. Then we're gonna hit it with the wire wheel. So to save our hubs here, we're gonna just pop these axles out and we'll pop them back in when we're done cleaning this thing up. The axles usually pop out pretty easy here. Sometimes they're a little bit of a pain, but these ones actually pop out nice and easy. Okay, so here we go. Got our axles out, and we are ready to hit the sandblaster. So we got the car in the sandblaster. I'm a big fan of using the sandblaster as opposed to using the paint strippers and all. It's easier for me, obviously. This usually only takes just a couple minutes, especially with these old Redline cars. The paint usually comes off, real easy. Does leave a little haze on there when we're done, but we're gonna hit that with the wire wheel and that'll come right off and leave us with a nice shiny body. So just want to make sure we get through all the little cracks and crevices. We'll just try and get all that old teal paint off there as much as possible. And same with the chassis. We'll get that thing all cleaned up, get them ready for the wire brush. Okay, so here's a good look. Kind of hard to focus on that thing being so close, but you can kind of get an idea there, the haze on the outside of that body. But it'll look totally different once we hit it with the wire wheel. I don't know why I'm having a hard time focusing this thing. But let's go ahead and get it in our little wire wheel box here. I like using this thing. It just seems to be a lot easier with having those little wire pieces flying off at you whenever you're in these cars, and also for polishing. Sometimes it gets a little messy and the polish flies everywhere, so I like using this little makeshift booth I got here. But we're just gonna take our little Dremel tool and get all the way around this thing. You can kind of see some body shining after we get this sandblast haze off here. So just a couple more seconds really, and we should be just about done with this guy. Let's take a quick look here. That's looking much better, nice and shiny. Now we're gonna go ahead and take that chassis and do the same thing. We will run the wire brush over this thing and get it all cleaned up. After we're done here, we will try to clean it up just a little bit better with a little triple-aught steel wool, and then we'll put a little metal polish to it and get it nice and shiny before we go ahead and put our axles back in. So here we got a good look at our body, all nice and cleaned up. And look at our chassis. It's like night and day difference from when we started, and it really looks good. It'll even look a little bit better once we get that thing polished up. So next step here for me is drilling the posts out and getting them tapped and ready to go. I like doing this step now after the sandblasting, as opposed to before sandblasting, before getting the paint off there. When it's in the blast box, a lot of that sand particles and whatnot, they'll get in that hole and plug you up. So I just prefer to do it after. But I got my 172 drill bit in here. Like I said earlier, these the old Redline posts, some of them are really thin and skinny. So 172 is the smallest one. If you can get that going right down the center and go nice and slow, you should have no problems. Then we'll be able to get our tap out for our little 172 screws for later. But you just want to go nice and slow. You don't want to try to go too fast. It will heat the metal up a little bit, and you'll run the risk of blowing the sides out. So just take your time, go slow, try to keep it straight. Shouldn't have a problem. And some of these cars, especially with the ones with the hood open, you gotta be real careful that you don't go in too far here. Since the hood opens, you can see the engine. You definitely don't want to go poking through there. Sometimes the body can be real shallow when you're drilling a post out underneath the engine. So the way I like to do it is I just go as deep as I feel comfortable with, and then I'll just shave a little bit off of the screws so it still fits, so it still works. So we're going to use a little bit of wax here on the end of our tap, and I'm going to go ahead and tap these holes out real quick. I got it speeding up here fast so I don't bore you too much with this bit, but you want to go nice and slow. If you feel a little tension, you got to back off and go back in with it, or else this real small tap, it will break. I've broken many of them already. So here's our body. It's all polished up. We're going to go with some Spectraflame red, but actually we're going to go ahead and mix our red with some 2K clear. My clear is 2-to-1 clear, so it's 2 clears to 1 part hardener, and I throw a little thinner in there, and then I throw some Spectraflame paint in there to tin it up, and really puts a nice shine on here. So we're going to go ahead and start applying this. We're going to put a nice light tack coat on here, get it all coated, and then we're going to let it dry. So we can give the rest of this paint a little something to stick to. But this just goes on so nice. Now you can see if I'm starting to build the red up, and it is looking really good. I think I'm going to go just a little bit more on here, but I've just about got the color that I'm looking for. Now you can see how the extra applications are really deepening the tint on that color. Now it's really getting to be a nice dark red, and really liking how this is looking right now. So I think we're just about done hitting this thing. You can see it's gleaming pretty good in that light. I'm pretty happy with how that paint's turned out. That's going to dry up and look real sharp. Yeah, look at that. I'm real happy with this. Okay, so we're going to move on back to our chassis here. We have our axles popped back in. We're going to pop on our new wheels. We're going to use our axle tool to kind of help get everything straightened out, and it makes it easier if you put that axle tool behind the hub. Then you can go ahead and push your wheel on, give it something to push against. And once you get your wheel on there, you can kind of straighten them axles out a little bit. Now these were actually in pretty good shape, so they didn't take a whole lot of straightening, but they're going to look good on that freshly shining base. Alright, this is coming together nicely. I think you guys are going to like how this red Spectraflame looks here in the end. Pretty excited to show you. So we're just about done here, and moving on. Chassis is looking good. Everything's rolling. Look at that thing. Looking brand new. Alright, now we're going to tackle this windshield. First we're going to hit it with a little soap and water and toothbrush. Then we're going to wet sand it a little bit. And then we're going to dip it in some floor polish. And here we got our final pieces. And there's our newly painted body. It's looking good. We've got the windshield cleaned up. Look at that. It's looking nice and clear now. The interior, we just hit it with some soap and water and clean that up. So we're going to go with our reassembly. So we'll just pop that windshield in, pop the interior in, Get our chassis all nice and lined up here. Yeah, you just want to be careful with it. Make sure you fit it nice. Make sure the posts all line up. I didn't show you guys, but I usually sand down the rough edges of the post to help this process go together a little bit better. Just makes it a lot easier, so you don't have trouble putting it together after it's done and painted. But here's a look at what we started with. The Redline Mercedes-Benz 280sl. Looking pretty rough there, but now we're going to look after our fresh paint, new wheels. Look at that, it's looking real good. I did notice in the video I left off the tail lights, so off video I colored those in with a red Sharpie. So I know I forgot them here, but I got them handled. But look how that thing looks. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching, and please subscribe, and see you next time. See ya.